we've got the venerable Cody Sunkel, who actually runs a platform. Yeah, you guys, a little shout out to the two of you guys at the same time here. Cody helps create platforms that help run app ecosystems, and so it's kind of we'll call it's a strategic decision to pair the big picture with the operational side of things. And so a lot of what Scott talked about today, conceptually, how do you get all these things integrated and intertwined, and the way that Jay talked about the right, you've got to have apps that integrate with your main torso and head. Well, I think Cody, what are you? You're the spine that runs across the torso and head that plugs all these things in. So that's my
I love
contribution to
it.
everybody's analogy here today. And so thank you, Scott. Feel free to hang out in the back chat with us or go back to all the great things that you do. And we'll see you later. And I'm going to bring up Cody and some of the things he's going to share with us right now. So Cody, we got, speaking of explosions of apps, we've got this little slide coming up right now for you.
Boom. Thank you, Scott. Thanks, Justin. Happy to be here. And super honored, even though it was strategic, like you mentioned, to follow on from Scott, because he's been such an inspiration for us. And while he might say that HubSpot ecosystem is not very far along in their ecosystem maturity, if they're not, I don't know who is. So we're following their lead, and they're setting a great example.
Yeah, so you guys kind of represent the spine of a lot of different companies' apps infrastructure. We all know I worked at an app that was part of the HubSpot ecosystem, and a ton of our business, which I can't say how much, came from being an integration partner with them and starting to run processes and co-selling and co-marketing with them. And so and I knew we would never exist. We would never have that level of visibility and strength in the market if it wasn't for being a part of the HubSpot app ecosystem. Now, the difference between HubSpot and I would say a lot of us out there who also have apps that can integrate, is that they're a big company. They have the manpower, the resources. Even though Scott Brinker said they're in the third inning, a lot of us are getting to our first at bats. We're in our first innings, and so having the capital, having the resources, having the clarity of what to build in order to even enable partners to integrate with our apps is often, as we all know, way down on the roadmap on the product teams, who are kind of often looking at us like extra tasks, extra chores, extra features, not partnerships. They consider us features versus partnerships. And so I think what you've built and what you've done and you're going to share how some of the great companies you've worked with, you've helped them shortcut their route to market, route to partnership through by creating a platform that, as Scott was saying, enables hundreds, if not thousands of companies to be able to plug in without having you and your team to set up, manage, procure, all that hassle that goes into. In fact, I remember when I was working at my last company, we didn't have an app platform, and so it was hard for me to even get integrations done. As much as I wanted to pick partners and work with them, couldn't do it because we didn't have an infrastructure, nor was the development team even willing to look at this stuff. And so I think what you got for us today helps solve a lot of the problems for companies that want to have a strong tech partner program, but don't necessarily have the resources to build that infrastructure to support it. And so
For sure.
I think that's where you come in.
Yeah, no, that's a great intro. And, since we're following along from Scott, I mean, we want to basically enable the next 100, 200, 1,000 HubSpots to exist and to build their ecosystems. People who are, right now inhibited by like the massive costs that it requires to invest up front and take on the risk of to actually get your ecosystem moving. And so I have 52 slides to break that exact thing down right now. So we're going to be talking about how to unlock that open platform strategy and crowdsource 800 plus integrations. And Justin did a great lead in.
Just one second. I'll get out of the way. I just want to see everybody in the audience right now who has a tech partner program. If you have a tech partner program, type the word tech in the chats, and then it's all you, Cody.
Awesome. Yeah, so I was saying Justin did a great lead in. If you're not familiar with Partner Fleet, we power 50 plus SaaS marketplaces today. Companies like LiveRamp, ZoomInfo, Gong, Motive, Crossbeam. I know Bob's a speaker today as well. And, what we're looking to do, which we'll talk about more, but is, like I said, empower more people to open up their platforms and build ecosystems to create exponential growth paths. So where I'm going to start is actually with a case study. It's based on a conversation I had with a senior product manager at a $2 billion observability company. He's responsible for building their ecosystem, been involved for a long time, sort of ground up understanding of what it took and understood a lot of the steps that they went to, the trials and tribulations. And so I thought it was very insightful to pull from his knowledge and could help a lot of people out who are following a similar path here. So where they started on their journey of building ecosystems was basically just listening to feedback and selling their product and hearing what their prospects were requiring. And they were saying, hey, we need these integrations or we're not going to be able to sign up. So they started to build integrations, right? Which is a very common thing that we see across the industry. And then the next phase of this came into play where, the same thing essentially was happening, but on the other side of the customer lifecycle where existing customers were requiring integrations. And so they built integrations to retain their customers. And as they were doing this, they started to realize that there was value here, right? Integrations would mean a more valuable product for their customers. They'd have better use case coverage across their customer base, so more needs being solved, and they get that competitive advantage from a sales standpoint. And uniquely for them, they have a data consumption model that they can drive revenue from. So there was a more direct correlation to revenue there than what a lot of companies have. So basically, after they understood this, they leaned in. They basically saw integrations as a growth strategy at this point. And so they built integrations not just to win deals and retain customers, but basically to solve use case coverage across their customer base. And so they ended up investing millions of dollars into this initiative, right? They hired up 8 teams of 5 to 10 engineers plus a product manager, which, just back of the napkin math here is about 7 to 13 million in annual cost, right? And they're doing this all in-house. Not an insignificant undertaking here. The thing that they realized is, they were excited about their upgraded velocity to deliver integrations, but they were only building dozens. And as they did this, their customer base got excited and they kept hearing more and more use cases that needed to be solved. And so ultimately customers wanted thousands, but they could only build dozens. And at the same time, the deeper they got into this, they ran into these other issues as well. First of all, the time to build an integration is pretty substantial. If you look, a lot of times an integration will take 3 to 6 months to build with a full team behind it. So there's a lot behind building integrations, and they're doing that all themselves. They lacked expertise as well, right? So they weren't subject matter experts on the third-party products that they were integrating with, and they just weren't getting them right, essentially. They were building them, and then it was wasted effort because the use cases weren't actually solved the way that they built it. They also had low adoption, so it was just hard to get customers to use them once they were built, and they lacked scalability. So they thought I mentioned this already, but they thought a few dozen integrations would kind of do the trick for them. And then ultimately they needed hundreds or thousands. And this is why HubSpot, you see they have thousands on their marketplace now, right? And the MarTech stack being over 14,000 now. Okay, wow, there is a lot more here than we initially expected. So this company had a choice to make. And essentially there were 3 options for them. They could throw in the towel, stop building integrations. They could build integrations in-house like they have currently been doing, or they can open up their platform. So there's benefits and risks to each of these, right? If you throw in the towel, you're going to reduce the costs by millions. The risk is competitors win. I already mentioned Bob once here, but he has sort of a famous anecdote now where he was scaling up RJ metrics and competing against Looker, and he opted not to build an ecosystem while Looker built their ecosystem. And he was able to sell his company for a modest transaction, while Looker sold for multiple billions of dollars. So he calls it $2.6 billion mistake. And that happens all the time.
He doesn't quite share the number explicitly, but in his book, Ecosystem-Led Growth, he does say it's 100 times less. And so he doesn't say the exact number, but you can take 100 times less.
Yep.
2.6 billion. That gives you an idea of the difference between what that number is and what Bob got without an ecosystem.
Yep, nailed it. So second option here, continue to build integrations. The benefit of this, the risk to reward balance is understood. It's predictable. They can control their costs, and they maintain control of the product. But the risk is that the costs and their headcount costs really scale proportionately to the integrations that are being delivered. And like I said before, they can probably only deliver 30 to 50, let's say, integrations in a year. And at the same time, that development effort is going to trade off with core product roadmap. Third option being open platform. So the benefits here, the integration delivery is going to outpace the headcount needs dramatically, and they're solving more customer needs. And over time, they're going to build that competitive moat by creating a network effect that's going to drive growth for their company as well. The risk, of course, is that they have massive upfront infrastructure costs and program development costs, and they're committing to long-term developer support. So obviously, their decision was it's time to open up shop. They wanted to crowdsource integrations and apps from third-party developers. This is a big bet, right? The upfront cost to build this infrastructure is easily in the millions. We're talking about API infrastructure, program and governance, the tooling to manage your ecosystem. You have the third-party developer portal and all the resources to enable developers, your app marketplace, which we have a whole company around today, and app installs and payments. And there's probably a bunch more you could put on this list here. The benefit, however, is that there's this huge upside opportunity. So the bottom line here is sort of your in-house linear growth you can expect from continuing to build integrations on your own. And then that top line is the open ecosystem where third parties are building, and you have this exponential growth and scale. Get faster innovation. You're growing central to what your customers need. You have competitive advantage, and again, those network effects. So this is the opportunity that they saw and why they decided to go that route. So there's a happy ending to this story. Well, it's still in progress, but they're in a good spot. Today they have 800 plus integrations, and they continue to climb. So here's the deal. This is what we believe, right? Like, we love hearing this success story. HubSpot, Salesforce, ServiceNow, et cetera. Like, there are a ton of prominent ecosystems out there that have a very similar success story, but they had to invest that money up front and make this bet. So we think that opening your platform should not be a multi-million-dollar bet, and that's the mission that we're on. The reason being is that, as we alluded to before, and as Scott talked about too, look at this box on the right. There's around roughly 1,000 companies in the SaaS space that are over 200 employees. And there's about 6,000 mid-sized companies that are 50 to 200 employees. And then you have this massive long tail of over 50,000, 60,000 companies that are in this small company category. They don't have millions to invest in this infrastructure needed to build an ecosystem, right? So they're all left out. And when we talk about disrupting the head, and like, I forget what the other terminology was, but looking at Scott's last presentation where we're talking about, how can this group on the left start to disrupt the group on the right? Well, one of their best strategies for that is going to be to build an ecosystem. And if they can't do it, it's hard to compete. So our mission here is to unlock access to the open ecosystem strategy, make it affordable, make it accessible for all companies and not just the tech giants. So I want to go into what is required to open up here real quick. I think for a lot of people, us included at the start, even when we were working in partnerships prior to starting Partner Fleet and all that, the perception was, okay, if you want an open ecosystem, build APIs, make them publicly available, and draw up some API docs. There you have it. You're a platform. Well, the reality is it's much more complex, right? You need APIs, sure. You need docs, but docs come in this broader category of developer enablement, which, you need developer guides, SDKs, a bunch of other things there, like you would for your customers to enable them to be successful in their journey. API management, you need the marketplace on the website and in the app. You need somewhere to manage your marketplace. You need that dev portal, sandbox environments, the ability to provision apps to your end users, right? All the program and governance structures, the monetization and payouts. It's very complex, and once you start to peel back the onion, there's a lot that goes into it. So when we look at grouping these requirements, we kind of grouped them into 5 different groups, right? You have your API infrastructure, program and governance, ecosystem management, the third-party developer portal, and the app marketplace. Now, there's a couple here that are proprietary to you. So the API infrastructure, you're going to have to develop. It's going to be core to your product. Things like your API credentials, sandbox, monitoring of the APIs, things like that is infrastructure that you'll need to sort out. The program and governance is also going to be tied heavily to how do you want to run the program strategically based on the outcomes that you're looking to drive from your ecosystem. So rules, processes, frameworks to operate the ecosystem. And then how are you going to recruit partners, enable them, market? What do the commercials look like? All that stuff, that's your decision. Our wheelhouse to this day has been the app marketplace infrastructure. So the ability to, and then the ecosystem management capability to manage the marketplace on the back end as well, right? So set up your marketplace, track everything, give partners access to create listings and manage them over time, and all the good stuff that goes alongside the marketplace. Now, the missing link in the chain has been this dev portal, right? So the ability to onboard developers, give them a nice experience, deliver resources and guides, and allow them to build and submit apps. That's the crux in the ecosystem. If you don't have that sorted out, you have no inventory to populate the marketplace with. So this is where a lot of ecosystems fall down. So when we came to market, recently we've kind of been told that we put the cart before the horse, right? We built the marketplace, but then a lot of people were having upstream issues saying like, hey, we don't have processes to enable developers. So the throughput on getting apps built and merchandised in the marketplace was very low. And so this was a learning for us that like, hey, there's some issue, upstream from us that needs to be sorted out. So in an ideal world now, you have the ecosystem management, third-party developer portal, and app marketplace all in one spot. So that leads me into the product launch that we have for you today. We're announcing our third-party developer portal. Super excited about this. And our goal with this is to fix the developer experience and to democratize the ability for more companies to build and grow their ecosystems. I'm going to go through a series of problems that people have with the developer experience, the solutions that are sort of objective, and then what our solutions are with the developer portal that we're launching. Now, the problems are what we've learned from the market, right? So everyone has these issues for the most part. The solutions are objective, meaning whether you use Partnerfleet's developer portal or not, you're still going to have to figure out how to solve these issues. And then the features are just going to be our take on how to do it best. First problem. So it's disorganized developer program. The solution is setting up a clear developer workflow. So what we've done is we create workflows with pipelines. So you can set up stages that are sequential, that move a developer from one thing to another based on stage gates and allow them to progress through the process of building and deploying an app and merchandising in the marketplace. Second problem here, the developer's unclear about requirements and process to build an app. So this relates to the last one. The solution is show the developers that step-by-step journey that you created already in the back end. So our solution here is in the developer portal, they're going to see those stages and steps, all the action items that are required at each stage. They're going to understand what they need to do, what they need to complete before they can move to the next stage. If anything's in review, right? Things like that, it's going to be very transparent and clear for them. Next problem, scattered developer resources. A lot of times you get someone who wants to build an app and you go and dig up all the different resources and documentations, or they come to you and say, hey, do you have a guide? Do you have an SDK? Where are your API docs? All this stuff. So the solution is consolidate all of that information, all those resources into a single sort of unified hub, which is what we've done here. We have folders and you can put your resources in those folders, whether they link out maybe to README API docs or something like that, or they're embedded directly within Partner Fleet in the portal. Next problem is you lack visibility into developer progress. So both on an individual level, how is this developer doing building their app, or program-wide? How effective are we at moving from developers who are building apps from this stage to this one? And do we have any blockers, or are they getting stuck in one spot? The solution is to be able to see the developer progress through the stages and have it in one snapshot. So with that pipelines feature that we talked about before, you can also see a representation of all the apps, where they're at in the process. And then the next phase of this too is developer projects stalling or failing, right? The solution to this is you got to get them to the finish line. How do you do that? You can do that through, in Partner Fleet, these time-delayed email and webhook automations. So things like when project is in step app submission for more than 30 days, send an email. Do you need help with anything? We notice you haven't submitted your integration yet. So just nudges to get them to continue the process and get them to the finish line with their app. Next problem here, high-touch programs. Because of the lack of automation and resources and all of that, a lot of outreach from developers. They drown the partner managers in manual work and communications back and forth. So the solution here is create self-serve and low-touch workflows. And that's what we've done here with automations that allow people to move from one step to the other, to trigger email communication or Slack communication, so that ultimately you're enabling that long tail where, hey, we can't talk to every developer. You're creating that self-service workflow. I think this is the last problem here. The approval process when a developer submits an app is manual and it's ad hoc. It's always catching people off guard, right? The solution is to manage app review in one place and have good tracking for that. So what we've done is created a multi-step app review and approval process. It goes like this. If you have a app submitted, then you can set up the stages for approval. There's probably going to be a technical review, a security review, and a legal review. Once the technical review is done, it's cleared, automatically sends to the legal or the security team for them to review. They finish up, it goes to legal. They approve, the app is officially approved and ready to go live. So what this gives us is this developer journey that can be fully self-service and automated from get a developer account, give them access to explore resources, get the API credential sandbox access, build and submit the app for review and approval, create and publish the marketplace listing, and then track engagement, track installs and purchases and all that good stuff, which is ultimately the reason why they put forward the effort to build the app in the first place. So now we have sort of that infrastructure covered, right? Like we can do it once, but now we need to do it at scale. So the next phase of this is attracting developers to get to that 800 plus integrations mark that we're talking about. And there's sort of two phases here. First one is you're going to have to go recruit partners, right? Can do simple things like add a developer section to promote the program on the website, start a developer newsletter, capture interest and communicate, right? Advertise on some channels where they can learn about your programs, and run campaigns for API updates, developer incentives, any social proof, things like that.
I got one to add.
Go for it.
We got to take it. I mean, I think Corey's legitimately smart about this, is that at least on the agency side, and I think even better on the app side, is what companies are already partnered with your competitors, go inside their marketplaces, go inside their listings, go inside their pages, and then DM them. In fact, I did something similar with Loom, and then invite them to talk about integrating with you. And so they're already integrated, you're already doing business. Why not you?
Boom. I love that one, actually. Good call out, Justin. Last couple slides here, and I think we're going to end perfectly on time, but the next phase of promoting your ecosystem is actually sort of like when the work does itself, right? So you create this inbound flywheel, and that's what leads to the exponential growth. You have your app marketplace, you start to publish your apps in there, your integrations. That enables your customer-facing teams to make recommendations to the customers that they're working with. Then you can start doing some of those things like, integration launches and success stories, co-marketing webinars, campaigns, right? And then you have this inbound flywheel where the developers are seeing your ecosystem, seeing how much you invest, and they have high confidence now that if they spend some time building an app or integration, it's going to be well taken care of, and they're going to get a lot of value out of it. So then the thing just keeps rolling. Awesome. 2 minutes to spare here. We're super excited about this. We've heard it a million times over the past 3 years that we've been in market with our app marketplace product. People are saying, hey, we're blocked upstream. Can you fix that? To this day, it's been no. But today we can say yes. We're still going to be iterating on this. We're going to be enhancing it over the coming quarters and adding a lot of more technical capability with API gateways and things like that. So we're excited for the conversation. Let us know if this is something that you're running into. Have a conversation with us. We can show you what we built today and where we're headed. Excited about it.
Thank you, Cody, for a number of reasons. One, you really laid out the problems and then the way to solve those blockers in what ultimately is routes to market for our app partners and our app partnership program. And that if you don't have app partners building, integrating, then it's hard to get those types of deals done. And so you've clearly sat down and understand tech partnerships and the tech partner platform process better than anybody I've seen. And so I would just ask anybody in the audience who's running into these issues, has pain points and problems where they're like, yeah, we would love to have more apps. We would love to have more app partners. The only problem is we haven't had a seamless, streamlined way that doesn't require half a dozen new people to come on board to recruit and manage the process. It sounds like you've solved that with technology. And so I want to give you a shout out for helping build this for us in the tech partner world. Let's give everybody in the audience, let's give Cody a little shout out for putting this together. And of course, if you've got pain points and problems that are blocked by app resources and technological blockers that prevent you from growing your app marketplace, and or you just want to have a streamlined way, because Cody actually didn't even spend much time talking about one of the key things Partner Fleet does is simply it's just a platform where you can plug and play and drop it on your site and then add your app partners to manage their listings. And so that even is if that's an issue or challenge for you, I implore you to go check out Partner Fleet for both this new enhanced feature that allows you to bring in a higher velocity and streamlined process of app partners, but just generally speaking, what do they call bread and butter? Like, hey, give me a listing platform that makes it easy for me to update, for them to update without me having to handle it. So I want to drop that shout out for you as well. Thank you, Cody.